and it exploded in my face and killed me. In August 14, 1958, I died from that bomb. And then he was reborn in the next village by the name Bader. When he was 33 in his new life, he was working in Haifa. He served in the Israeli reserve, and he's telling his life story. I have to continue. Vivian Silvano was born in Sao Paulo 1963 and speaking Portuguese. Then one day she started to talk Italian. When she was 2 years old, she started to make all kinds of names of people. And she was correcting, she was saying it in the right accent, Italian accent. They started to check her story, and they found out that she remembered her previous life. I'm moving on to the next chapter, which is regression. What's regression? Regression is very simple. You come to a doctor's appointment, a parapsychologist, and he's able to hypnotize you. How do they hypnotize you? They tell you, please look at the point right there on the wall for 15 minutes. Do not think about anything. Just focus on that point. And for 15 minutes, a person is staring at that point, and then he begins to fall asleep. This is a situation that you're half awake, half asleep. It's called hypnosis. They hypnotize you. Once you're in that situation of hypnosis, this doctor is able to return you to previous time in your life. And this is the way it's been done. There's many videos about it in many libraries. I'm sure you can get some of it in the internet. It's well known. Let's go to 1975. August 10, 2 o'clock. Can you tell me where are you? This person now is going back 30 years, 35 years. Yes, I'm standing in Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, trying to sell my Persian rugs to someone there. Then they said, okay, let's go to 1965. I'm waiting for my bar mitzvah. The rabbi is coming to teach me how to read in the Torah. Let's go to 1955. He's 3 years old. What happened? He falls on the floor and begins to crawl like a baby. Remember, he could be 7 years old. Then he makes noise like a baby, 7 years old, crawling on the floor, and you hear like a baby is on the floor. Then they say, let's go to 1950. 1950 is 10 years before he was born. Sometimes there is complete silence. You talk to him, no answer. Why? He wasn't in a body. He was in a spiritual world waiting for another reincarnation. Then they go, let's go to 1930. Then guess what? He begins to talk in a different language. Now he's speaking Russian. Until now he was speaking Persian. Now he speaks Russian. Where are you? In Moscow. What's your name? Alex. It's a different person. It's the same soul in a different body. Describe 1930 in Moscow now. What is he doing? In some of those regressions, in the middle of the regression, there was one girl, one woman that describing her previous life in Auschwitz. And she's waiting in a line, and the Nazis are shooting one by one. And she described it live like in any second she's going to get a bullet in her head, speaking in Yiddish. Live from 1943 or 1947, mamash live, original from that time. Some of the regression, they were able to return people to the previous reincarnation that was sometimes was even 1,000 years ago. One of the regression, they were able to get a goy that describing that is a carpenter of the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. This is almost 4,000 years ago. He is speaking in ancient Egyptian. Some languages that they speak in the middle of the regression, nobody in the world were able to know which language is that. They took it to all the world experts to languages, and they did not recognize the language they were talking, because there's nobody aware of this language anymore. That's how old that language is. We're going to see some of the cases here. (1973), a famous doctor in Philadelphia with his wife was regretting his wife after he hypnotized her. She started to speak like a man. and ancient Swedish, very old language. She started to describe herself, she's a woman. She's a woman right now in her life. But she described herself as a farmer from Sweden 300 years ago in a village named Enshin. She described the village, the market, and she describing very primitive tools that she used to work in a field 300 years ago. I have all the sources. If you want to copy it, you can go and check later on. Okay? Then, in one of the sessions hypnotizing a person, Dr. William McDougall, a psychologist from Harvard University, in the beginning of the 20th century, he was not interested to find out anything about reincarnations. He wanted to do hypnosis, to hypnotize someone for a different reason. But in the middle of the test, there's a person that started to say that he's a carpenter, and he has to make on a board an image that was made for the grave of Pharaoh. And he has to make an eagle, and he described with his hand how the eagle would look, and with a white crown. And McDougall was registering all the information. 9 months later, Sir Petrie, a British archaeologist that was working with an Egyptian company, found out in his digging, he found out a grave of a king. Nobody knew which king from the time of the pharaohs, but they didn't know which one. And when they saw on the grave the images, it was exactly the eagle and the picture that this carpenter was describing, that he made it. So they put it together, they crossed the information. Maury Bernstein, a parapsychologist from Colorado, published in 1956 his sensational book, Following Brady Murphy. The book described Ruth Simmons, that remember a previous life of Brady Murphy in Ireland in the 9th century. It's like 1200 years ago almost. And in few times of regression, she remembers relatives and historical places. And she speaks in very old Irish accent. And she described the life of Murphy in Ireland. Then later they investigated if there was a person like this, as was published in Life magazine, in an American magazine. Professor from Geneva was hypnotizing a girl, 5 years old, and while he was trying to cure her from her problem, she started to describe her previous life as she's in a palace with beautiful flowers. She said, I'm 23 years old. And she said, what's your name? Kanara. Where is it? In India. Are you married? I'm one of the wives of Prince Sibroka. Who is Sibroka? The king that is in charge of the kingdom of Kanara. At that time, she's speaking Indian, which she never in her life knew one word in Indian. But right now, she described her life from that time. Let's continue. I'm going to skip some. Dr. Weir Mitchell, a doctor from Philadelphia, reported that one time at night he woke up, somebody rang the bell. He opened up the door, pay attention carefully to this story, and he saw a little girl wearing some clothes, very sad, asking him, sir, my mother is very sick. Can you come and try to cure her? It was very cold night, snow, heavy snow, winds. The doctor was very tired, and he almost told her that he cannot do anything for her. But then he had mercy on her and the way she talked, and he got dressed and he followed that girl to a house where the mother lives. When he entered the house, he treated the mother and saved her life.